to bring in my guest. Wayne Sussman is an election analyst. And Wayne, you've been listening in. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us. You've been listening in to what Michael Beaumont was saying and obviously tracking these hours and hours of caucusing, which I call horse trading. I mean, I know you're going to give us the numbers because it does boil down to a numbers game. But what do you think is going on within these coalitions? Because it seems that there's fractures within the ANC. The DA seems to have isolated their former coalition partners. And the citizens are left wondering when, if ever, it's going to be resolved.
Thank you, Sally. There are two sides over here. There's the ANC and the EFF who are working together in the city of Johannesburg. They have by far the most amount of numbers, the ANC being by far the biggest party in that particular bloc, who are battling, who are agreeing to work with each other, but are battling to agree on mayoral candidates across Gauteng. And that is why we find ourselves in a situation that they have to horse trade amongst themselves to say which of these smaller parties will be the most palatable to us and our coalition agreement. If the ANC cannot accept the EFF's candidate and vice versa, the EFF cannot accept the ANC's candidate, which of the smaller parties? And right now, two names are being bandied about. And that's Kabelo Gwamande from Al Jama. The little research I found on him is I think he was a civil servant before he joined Al Jama. But with respect to him, Al Jama's got 3 councillors. I can tell you a lot more about the former mayor, Tapelo Ahmad, and there's Imran Musa, who's the famous ward councillor in Asia. They're far more well-known than Mr. Gwamande. And then there's Colleen Makubele, the Speaker of Johannesburg. So the ANC and the EFF and the other smaller parties within that bloc are deciding who can we find in this particular bloc. And then on the other hand, we just heard Michael Beaumont, we have the DA and the Action SA in that bloc not being willing or not being able to get behind one particular candidate. You have the DA supporting Mpho Phalatse, they'll have 71 votes, and then the other parties in that slate getting behind Funzi Ngobeni, the leader of Action SA in Gauteng and the leader of Action SA in the city. So right now, we have 4 candidates, and Sally, after your next question, I'll throw the cat amongst the pigeons.
Well, I suppose it depends what my next question is, because it's just, a part of me wants to say, just everyone throw a name into the ring and just everyone vote on who they think is the best person. Stop horse trading, stop caucusing, just find the right person. You know, and on the face of it, it looks like Mpho Phalatse. But why would the DA hang on to that and allow their coalition to essentially fall apart? I mean, it's disastrous.
Well, at the end of the day, you need 130, there are 270 seats in council, you need 136 seats for a majority. I spoke about 4 candidates now. The cat amongst the pigeons is the Patriotic Alliance, whether it's Kenny Kunene, who is currently the MMC for transport, the leader of Patriotic Alliance in the city. And I was thinking it might be Gayton McKenzie because he just threw a very big farewell party in Beaufort West. He's leaving there. But at the end of the day, Sally, the ANC and the EFF cannot get their preferred mayoral candidate without those crucial 8 seats from the Patriotic Alliance. Mpho Phalatse cannot become the mayor without the crucial 8 seats from the Patriotic Alliance. Funzi Ngobeni, who would love to be mayor of Johannesburg, cannot become mayor without those 8 seats of the Patriotic Alliance. They tonight are the kingmakers in the city of Johannesburg, and they on Friday will ultimately determine who leads the city going forward.
So surely the DA is then out of the equation, because Gayton McKenzie was at that press conference last week when they announced that Tapelo Ahmad was going to resign, and he said, yeah, John Steenhuisen asked me for a braai, and I'm not going to, and he had scathing words. I mean, we know things can change in a heartbeat. Surely the natural fit then is ANC, EFF, or Action SA.
Very, very good point you're raising there. Let's assume that Michael Beaumont and Herman Mashaba are able to get Gayton McKenzie across the aisle to their, he just spoke about the Moonshot Pact, that the Action SA, John Steenhuisen speaks about the Moonshot Pact, but it's Action SA who actually bringing it together, who making it possible. At the end of the day, the DA has 71 seats in council. All the current parties supporting Funzi Ngobeni, I think it gets to 59. Even with the Patriotic Alliance's 8 seats, the DA will still have more seats. So if the Patriotic Alliance is willing to hold their nose and vote for Mpho Phalatse, we have to go back to the numbers. And that's why it's absolutely essential to always focus on the numbers when no party has an outright majority. So it's clear that the Action SA is frustrated by the DA. I have no doubt that the DA is frustrated by Action SA. At the end of the day, they will not get their preferred mayor. No one's going to get their preferred mayor without Kenny Kunene and his fellow councillors deciding what's going to happen.
So just talk me through the numbers. The ANC and the EFF, what do they have combined?
Let's just loosely say that both blocks have 130. There are 270 seats in council. I think there's one vacancy. But let's say that the ANC block has 130. And the DA or Action SA block, because they'll vote together ultimately, have 130.
Despite what they're saying now?
Despite what they're saying now, I think they will find each other. They'll hold their nose and find each other. So to get to, you need 136 seats to become the mayor, okay? So I said the one block has 130, the other block has 130. I could even argue to say that the one block has 132. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, it comes down to the Patriotic Alliance and its 8 seats, because 130 plus 8 gives you 138, 130 plus 8 in the other block gives you 138. That is the majority.
Here's the thing. It gives extraordinary power to a small party. Now, with Al-Jamaa, what it means is they get a mayoral position. But the reality is, it's just a figurehead. They're being told what to do by the bigger parties. So in that sense, not really a threat. You throw in a Patriotic Alliance, someone like Gayton McKenzie, who is very clear that he wants power. I don't see him or any member of his party being quite happy to sit back and being told what to do when they are mayor. How could they shake things up in the city of Johannesburg?
Correct. And let's also remind the viewers that while the Patriotic Alliance is currently working that ANC-EFF bloc, you used the Braai analogy just now. I don't think Julius Malema and Gayton McKenzie are gathering much for Braais. They don't see eye to eye on much. So at the end of the day, you just raised a very good point. Al-Jamaa have 3 seats, Colleen Makubele and Cope have 1 seat. At the end of the day, the ANC and the EFF and the Patriotic Alliance, if they work together, the few other parties could get rid of them quite easily. Even though the Patriotic Alliance is a much smaller party than the ANC and the EFF, its 8 seats is consequential. Its 8 seats determine the future direction of the city, and they would have a more rightful claim to the speaker position, to a senior mayoral committee position, or possibly the mayoral position.
I mean, it's completely crazy. We have run out of time. But in 1 or 2 sentences, is this the stuff that we're going to see after next year's elections? And do you think that this is important stuff to go through because it perhaps will set us up for how to run coalitions in a mature way? Or are we just going to get worse and worse in it?
Very importantly, I love coming in here and speaking about the theatrics, but we do need our coalitions to be more mature, because otherwise voters are just going to say it's not worth showing up anymore because there's a circus going on. So all those political parties need to be more mature and big-headed, because otherwise we're going to have a frightfully low turnout next year. And there's a strong chance of something like this happening in provinces like the Western Cape, Gauteng and KwaZulu-Natal next year.
Well, it's all going to be hopefully kicking off on Friday. And then, of course, even after a new mayor is elected, we can see it's still very shaky and unstable at times. So thank you so much for creating some sense of understanding of what's at stake. And I think we should try and get hold of the Patriotic Alliance this evening, speak to them, see how they're feeling. Pretty good, I would imagine. Wayne Sussman, thank you so much for joining us in studio this evening.